Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Omniscient. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day for Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. Omniscient. I'm not omniscient. It's when you've got godlike qualities and you know all. It's a good word to have. It's a good word. It's like an SAT word when someone around you is maybe a little egomaniacal or someone around you thinks they know everything. I don't mean like Nostradamus prediction type. I mean like all-knowing. Owners are often thought of as omniscient only in their own living rooms. The thing about being omniscient is that it doesn't matter if anyone else thinks you are. It only matters that you think you are. And NFL owners have been really super good about exhibiting those qualities, especially as another failed season comes to an end and they all try to figure out what buttons need to be pressed in order to change the fortunes of their franchise. Keep in mind, one button that can't be pressed is the I'm not omniscient button. You don't have owners who give up power. You don't have owners who take a step back, who say, I'm going to run things differently now. We talked yesterday about how Jerry Jones operates, naming himself the GM, the ultimate in omniscient. But I want to talk to you about a few owners we discussed yesterday, a few moves that were made. And one of the interesting things that happens when you feel as though you are omniscient, I'm going to try to work it in 12 times in the first 3 minutes. That's a little private joke between me and Coca. Wait for it. I think I'm at 6. Is that you fire your coach, Jerod Mayo. You give an entire statement, which we went through yesterday. And then you followed up with another, just in case the first statement wasn't clear enough. Just in case you had a little more you wanted to get out there in order to explain your move. Just in case you get feedback that there may have been a small misunderstanding. So Robert Kraft gets up there and says, listen, my name's Robert Kraft. I'm the owner of this team. I am the last man standing with any decision. So he said, quote, this whole situation is on me. It's an amazing way for an owner to start a statement, isn't it? Would you rather an owner say, hey, what do? I just write the checks around here. I have no idea what's happening. You think I'm metal? I read about the stuff in the paper. When Jerod Mayo got fired, I just picked up the morning paper in my bathrobe, house coat, and wedgies. I looked at it, and it was a headline below the fold, and the font wasn't too big. Put on the spectacles and said, whoa, I guess we fired our coach. Give me a small break. This whole situation is on me. Accountability. Page 69 of the ownership playbook. But then it got worse. He said, I feel terrible. I feel terribly, but don't worry. I feel terrible for Jerod because I put him in an untenable situation. Do you think that means that he put the 50 plus players on the team and realized that the players were so bad that you could have had any head coach from Bill Belichick to Bill Walsh and all of them would have failed? Or is he saying that I hired him prematurely? He wasn't ready to be a head coach. Our players were good. And the reason I fired him is he wasn't able to get the most out of the players, which is how you blame a coach when a team doesn't win, because you certainly don't want to say, I am the omniscient one and I gave you bad players. I wonder what he means, an untenable situation. So he explained it. I know that he has all the tools as a head coach to be successful in this league. Wow, this is getting even worse. If you have all the tools to be successful in the league, why are you being fired? I'm just throwing it out there. It must be me. That must be hyperbole. I know that he has all the tools as a head coach to be successful. All right, let's see what else. He just needed more time before taking the job. Bingo! Yahtzee! Robert Kraft just told the world that when he hired Jerod Mayo, he wasn't ready to be the head coach, which means that he's not really good at hiring head coaches other than Bill Belichick, which means that he's now telling you that if he's still in charge of the head coaching search, that as a Patriots fan, Chris, you should have no faith, belief of any kind that he will do better this time. Because that's the beauty of those who are omniscient, is they don't feel they have to do better next time because they do the best every time. If it weren't for Shad Khan, then I would say that Robert Kraft would have been the highlight of my day 2 statements post firings. But Shad Khan, he's a beauty. Remember, we told you yesterday, breaking news during the show, he fired Doug Peterson. Thank you for what you did for Philly. Thanks so much for what you did in Jacksonville. Loved you on the team plane to London all the time. You were fantastic. You looked right before crossing the street. You were a chef's kiss for this organization. See you later, alligator. But we're going to keep the GM. He was asked why he never considered a complete organizational overhaul, given the fact that he has owned a team, wait for it, 10 double-digit loss seasons in 13 years owning the team. That's very bad. Very, very bad. And his response doesn't appear in any owner's playbook because it is one of the most asinine responses to a question we've ever heard in 1,193 episodes on Nothing Personal. He said, "What is a complete overhaul of the franchise? We have health and wellness of the players, medical, stats and analysis, scouting, a number of other elements along with contract administration. All of those areas we have changed and improved over the last 4 to 5 years. So to change all of that, it's almost like suicidal. You've got 85 people working on that side, and you say, I'm going to find 85 new people and they're going to be better. That's like shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, we need to go to work on something that's broken that needs to be fixed and continually be improving things that are working." If you're not watching this on the Nothing Personal with YouTube channel, then you didn't see that we just put on the screen that entire quote because I needed to see it for myself to believe it. It would be like the GM of your baseball team after a 90-loss season saying, overhaul, overhaul. We have amazing ticket takers. What an inside sales force we have. And you should see our accounts payable department. Oy vey. It's one of the great departments you'll ever see. When we say complete overhaul, Mr. Khan, we're talking about the football operations at the top. We're not talking about the people who are 25 years old who you pay $32,000 Canadian to in order to work in salary cap management. We're not talking about your analytics department. Now, it's nice of you that you have such great departments and you've made such great progress in 4 to 5 years, which does remind me that very many people get confused about what the job is of a professional sports team. I could give a flying rat's pituitary gland about 3 things, and you know this, having been with me for so many years. 1, I don't care what my minor league system record is. Hey, we won 2 minor league championships and we were 40 games over 500. We have the winning culture in the minor leagues. Don't care. Next thing, I don't care what our farm system ranking is. We've got the number 2 ranking. Yeah, doesn't matter. Here's what I care about: our major league record, hard stop. Playoff appearances, hard stop. Do you think when I tell you about my career that I tell you we won one World Series in 18 years and it was the only time I made the playoffs, that makes me the biggest success because I've got a bunch. I have them right over here, a bunch of rings that I got for minor league championships. Amazing. God, I was so good at my job. Minor league championships galore. And you should see the rookies of the year we had. And we had some silver sluggers. Woo! What a great job drafting that we did. Amazing. No, not going to defend my record by telling you those things. You should see the continuity that we had in the finance department and in the operations department. It would give you night sweats. We were together for so long, to say nothing of my general counsel. Would never talk to you about that. Why do you think Shad Khan is doing a statement telling you about all the things that they've done in the organization? Does that sound familiar, Derek Cheater? When Derek talks to Marlins fans before he himself got canned because of total ineffectiveness and total wasting money, do you remember when he would say, oh, we got a lot to fix, got a lot of problems in this organization, we got to move the home run sculpture, we got to redo the minor league farm system, they got nobody, and we're going to do it by trading away all the big league players. That's the plan, Stan. Doesn't that make you laugh a little bit? Or am I just being cynical? I don't have any cynical pills in front of me. I have some used tissues and a little bit of water and some chapstick because I'm dry as can be, parched as I try to rejuvenate my fluids from my Bali belly virus. It's not working so far, Coca, by the way. Again, stay with me. We have about 39 minutes to go. I can do this. But the reason why you're not going to hear me or anybody talk the way Derek spoke or he talk the way Shad Khan spoke is because as a fan or as a stakeholder, don't you read that and just say to yourself, this is the biggest bunch of horse hockey that I've ever actually heard. Complete overhaul. Man, we've got the best health and wellness players of all time. Wouldn't you rather have, I'd like to take a poll here. We don't do polls on nothing personal, but maybe we should. Would you like to win the minor league organization of the year? Or would you like to make the playoffs on the big league side? That's an easy one. Let's go past that. Would you like to be known as having the best strength and conditioning staff of anyone? Best in class. We've spent $5 million. We're expanding our weight room. We've hired 69 trainers. We do things with these players. We measure their sleep, and if they don't sleep well, they don't play. We put them in a position to win because we tell them what kind of nutmeg to eat when in order to have the best digestive system so they're not taking a deuce in the fourth inning. Man, have we spent money on all this stuff. Hey, how'd you do last year? Oh, 70 and 90. Ooh. So crazy to me. John Mara had more to say. Not sure I understand why, but he keeps going. Owner of the Giants wasn't good enough when he told us yesterday he's keeping Dable, keeping Shane. Then he was asked the day after, well, that's very nice that you're doing all that, the whole continuity situation, etc. But just curious, how long is it going to take for the Giants to improve? Because, of course, the Giants had a terrible season last season, as is evidenced by their record. There's no other evidence to look at. Don't tell me that Daniel Jones was overpaid and that they had to release him and it was a disaster, or there were injuries, or there was lack of performance on the defensive side of the ball, or we weren't happy with our coordinator. God knows a bunch of coordinators got fired yesterday because if you're not going to fire the GM or the head coach, it's like firing the pitching coach or the hitting coach, which is what you do at a baseball team. Yeah, I don't feel like getting rid of the manager, but we have to send a message to the fans and that clubhouse that we will not stand for this mediocrity. We need a new voice. I didn't hear that, Coca. So the Giants at 3-14 asked, how long will it take to improve? And here's what he said. It better not take too long because I've just about run out of patience. When we talk to our owner about little tidbits, little nuggets, little things we want them to say, one of the things that we don't talk much about is having them try to define their level of patience, because with owners, patience can sometimes be a inning to inning thing, a possession to possession item. When an owner says something better not take too long because I've just about run out of patience, what do you think as a fan? What's the runway that you think that he's giving his head coach? If you're waking up this morning and you're all pumped up to go to work and your name is Brian Dable and you're the head coach and you've got the job another year and you're taking a minute during the off season, but you're getting ready to game plan, you're looking at your opponents, you're looking at your team personnel, you're feeling so good, and your owner says, I'm just about run out of patience. What do you think you're saying? I wonder if do I have a whole season? Think I got 17 games? How about 10? What if I lose game 1? What if we have a terrible preseason? Honey, do you think that I should call John and ask him when he says he's running out of patience, like how long I have? Will that really help inform how I'll coach? Because I could coach week 1 like it's the Super Bowl. I could make sure that our guys are ready and have them play every preseason game. Injuries be damned. Who cares? We got to be ready to win immediately because we're going to have a tough schedule. Do you think John Mara actually called up Ryan and said, just so you know, I'm going to give a little quote here about patience, but don't worry. My definition of patience is you've got the whole year. I just don't want to tell the fan base that. There's no way he said that. It's time for the first wait to see of the new year. Wait to see is when we tell you something's going to happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, great. We revisit wait to sees. We have them all on a document on davidsamsonpodcast.com. You can look at every wait to see, every word of the day, every movie we've reviewed. It's all right there for you as a tracking document. My wait to see is the following. I believe that Brian Dable will be fired no later than week 7. Because I did some math. When you have a team that was 3-14, you have a Giants fan base, you recognize the Giants and Jets combined are the worst. It's the worst period in New York football history. You think there's a chance the Jets will be better definitionally because they're going to have a new coach and probably a new quarterback. You're very worried that you're going to be left behind. So put that all in the hopper. 6 weeks. That's all you have, Brian. So I wouldn't do any long-term furniture rentals in your office. Wait to see Daboll doesn't see week 7. When we talk about the issues that are happening in New York football, we've talked plenty about the Jets. God knows Woody Johnson makes me smile. As you know, Jets fans, congratulations, Stu Gatz, way to go. You just witnessed the greatest team that Woody Johnson has put together in his 25 years as owner. He said it himself when he fired Saleh. There's no way we're going to waste this great team that we put together. They stink. What did they win this year? 4 games, 5 games, 5-12, 4-13. I think they won the last game against the Dolphins where Aaron Rodgers had 4 TDs thinking how great he is. Overall, just a terrible season. So Woody Johnson is undergoing this search. He hired this committee. We've talked about how funny it is that they're paying Samson Coca at all in order to identify Louis Riddick and Rex Ryan. But Woody Johnson did something yesterday that I've never seen an owner do. Excuse me. Although I don't know why I need to say excuse me because you were muted. 1 second. Yes, it is true. I'm playing hurt. Do you remember when Woody Johnson over the break, an article came out in The Athletic talking about the insanity that was the Jets owner and how his teenage son was somehow involved in the running of the team? I feel like I am well versed to discuss this subject. Why? Because I was the 31-year-old son of the owner of the Expos when I first got a job running the Expos. And there were many people who thought I was too young, got the job because of nepotism, wouldn't be able to do the job at all. And there I was 18 years later, still as president of a team. I've always talked to you openly about nepotism, the opportunities that it has, but you have to do the job or else you don't last long. But one thing that I was always very clear on is that I was going to own all of the mistakes I made, and I was going to give all of the victories I had to the owner. That's the job of a team president. Take the blame, give the credit. Totally normal. But there was one thing I always asked of the owner. And I asked that when we are talking, and I've spoken about this with Jeff Wilpon, there's so many fathers and sons working in baseball, so many you may not realize. But if you go team by team, it would shock you. Football is the same. Crafts, the Jones, I mean, it's everywhere. One thing that I always wanted to be clear is that when something went wrong, I didn't want the narrative to be, oh, he's the son of the owner, therefore that is why it went wrong. I wanted people to think it went wrong because I had reasons to make a decision. The decision didn't work. Much like you in your life and you in your job, you don't get everything right. Whether you work with your family or not with your family, no matter what your job is, whether as a parent, as a friend, whatever you do in life, none of us can bat 1,000. I always wanted to take ownership of things that went wrong. And I always wanted to clarify things if I thought the media had something wrong about things that I did wrong. It doesn't mean that I would tell the media and I would gaslight them. It means that I would say, you're not looking at this right. The result wasn't what I'd hoped, but here's the thought process that went into the decision. And you can discuss that and criticize the process, no problem. But just so you know, I'm doing everything not in the rearview mirror. I can't play the result. I have to make decisions based on the information I have in front of me at the time, just like you all do in your jobs. No different. Woody Johnson got stuck in a situation, though, where he was being accused of having, one, his teenage son involved in the operation of the team, and two, not agreeing to trades because a player's Madden rating wasn't high enough. This came up during the break. Woody Johnson only merited one of those with a real response. The Madden rating thing, he sent out a spokesman and he sent out people to do leaks and to call as sources to go to media members to say that's ridiculous. Of course, that's not how it happens. And I only laugh at that because you can bet your bippy that owners look at stuff like Madden ratings. They look at stuff like prospect rankings. They look at stuff like farm system rankings. Owners tend to look at lists all the time. I can't tell you the number of times our owner would say, hey, we got to get one of the top 10 prospects from this team's organization, no matter what. Well, but we like prospect number 13 and 16 and 18 because the top 10 lists are ridiculous. They're made up by organizations, by publications that don't know anything about anything. And we've got baseball people who make decisions on who we want. We're not going to get it right all the time, but we certainly don't go mining for lists. And when trades are made in baseball, it happens all the time. The number 1, 4, 7, and 8 prospect went, wow, that is a great return. And then it turns out every one of the prospects stinks, doesn't make it. And you're like, huh, I guess that didn't work out. Owners look at lists. Do I believe that Woody Johnson looked at Madden rankings for players? Yeah. But that's not what he wanted to address yesterday. Woody Johnson decided he was going to respond to the report about him being meddlesome, about the Jets being dysfunctional, and about his teenage son being involved. And he said, in my family, my great-grandfather took my grandfather to meetings when he was a teenager. He'd dress up in a suit and go to meetings. That's the way you teach the next generation. That's what you do. It's an apprenticeship. Does he have any decision-making? Talking about the teenage son. Absolutely not. No decision-making, despite what you might read. So the 18-year-old son who goes to Harvard, goes to owners' meetings, sits in on personnel meetings, quiet as a mouse, doesn't say a word. Woody says to him, hey, what do you think of that? He says, I don't want to tell you, Dad. It's totally up to you. I want no input at all. I'm not going to tell you what I think or what my friends think or what I'm reading online. Don't be ridiculous. No, that's not how it works, actually. It is a guarantee that Woody's son would speak to his father, whether it's at dinner, whether it's in the UK, whether it's at lunch, whether it's during the game, and he would look at players, and the father would look at him and say, hey, what do you think, son? and the son would give his opinion. It doesn't mean you have to listen to the opinion, but to think that the 18-year-old would not have opinions is wrong. We had opinions from 12-year-olds with the Marlins. It happens. It doesn't mean they get listened to, but they certainly get heard. But why, in the name of holy God, would Woody Johnson choose to address it in the way by saying it's totally normal to have my son as my apprentice at 18 years old, but don't worry, he's not involved. All of the stink, that's because of the GM and the coach. If I am Woody Johnson's son, I am despondent beyond repair right now because my father just threw me under the proverbial M5. There is no particular reason to give a quote like that, to talk about the apprenticeship, to talk about what your grandfather did with your father. How about just saying this? My son's in college, focusing on his education. Of course, I look forward to the day when he will work in the family business. But now he's focused on what society is going to get into and whether or not he's going to meet Mark Zuckerberg. And frankly, what input do you need? Woody Johnson, you know who your head coach is going to be. I read it yesterday. It's a done deal. Are we making a big announcement right now, Coca? Nothing personal? All right, here we go. Ready? Just so Sarah can clip it really easily. 4869. Rex Ryan is the next head coach of the New York Jets. Source, Rex Ryan. Hold on, did I get that right? Rex Ryan is the next coach of the Jets, according to Rex Ryan. I've never seen that before where a coach announces that he's the coach. I wonder whether or not the firm that was hired by the Jets wanted it done that way because they didn't want to announce it. They didn't want Woody to announce it. They didn't want to say that they had a coach before a GM because they want the GM to think that he's got some power. So maybe they just said, Rex, hey, you go out there, go on a show, go on the Pietro and Rothenberg show, and here's what I want you to say. The reason I think I'm going to get it is because I'm the best guy for it. It ain't close. The thing you have to do, you have to connect with your football team. You have to connect with your fan base. The way they play, that's the most important thing. And you know what? Talking about Aaron Rodgers, he said if he comes back, things would be different. If he's back, it ain't going to be the country club. Show up whenever the hell you want to show up. That ain't going to happen. I'll just leave it at that. Rex Ryan. I'd like a show of hands for people watching the show right now or listening. I won't be able to see, so this is going to be a semi-informal poll. How do you feel about Rex Ryan being your new coach? Excited? Going back to the future? Going full Eddie money? I want to go back and do it all over, but I can't go back. I know that. The minute Rex Ryan came out and said that he's going to be the next coach of the Jets is the minute I knew that Rex Ryan will not be the next coach of the Jets. If the New York Jets hire Rex Ryan after these comments that Rex Ryan made, then the Jets are consigned to mediocrity permanently. It's like a permanent voodoo hex. It's the end. No chance toilet pants that Rex Ryan is the new head coach of the New York Jets. None. But I'm glad he said he is. When we come back, we're going to talk about something going on in San Diego that's an absolute nightmare for Major League Baseball. It's a nightmare for the San Diego Padres. We're also going to review a movie that has become a pretty controversial movie. I'm not exactly sure why. And we'll do it all in a moment. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. Thank you. You've got a few days left. Please go to sportspodcastgroup.com. Vote for Nothing Personal as the best baseball podcast, Sporting Class as the best sports business podcast. And please, we want to win because we can't have Pablo's show being the only show that wins awards. It's outrageous. We want to defend our title. We're the reigning champion. I want to review Wicked right now. I watched it during the break. Confession time. Hi, my name is David Samson, and I love musical theater. Hi, my name is David Samson. I love Broadway. Hi, my name is David Samson, and I love light rock. Hi, my name is David Samson, and don't you tell me that Air Supply isn't awesome because even the nights are better. There's a song in Wicked with Ariana Grande that she sings called Popular. It's a song that's been on my running playlist and on my relax playlist. It's a dual purpose playlist, dual purpose song. And it's a song about a popular girl making an unpopular girl popular. Makeovers are something that are interesting. We saw it in The Breakfast Club, which is a movie we're going to review, I believe, on Thursday as part of my top 100 Coca. Everyone's always trying to be the popular one. When you're not the popular one, you want to be in the aura of the popular one, see if they can rub off on you their popularity. I was watching Wicked, knowing that it's the backstory to the Wicked Witch of the West. It's tough when you watch a movie knowing that someone starts off green and there's a chance that they can be good, and then you watch them descend into madness and become bad and wicked. And you know from the beginning that she's going to die because the Wicked Witch of the West dies. And then you feel badly because you don't want her to die, except you know that she's wicked. And you're wondering, how did she get so hurt and damaged as to be wicked? And then you say, am I that hurt? Am I that damaged? Am I going to be green? And then you wonder, what is it about green? Like the Hulk. Why is it that that's the color that we associate with anger and evil and dismay? At 2 hours and 40 minutes, Wicked's a perfect movie. I spent 160 minutes not moving, not once. I happened to buy the movie on Apple, well worth $24.99 or $29.99. I got the extras and I got to sing along. There's all this talk about people being kicked out of movie theaters because they were singing along during the course of the movie. Of course, that drives me crazy because I only want to hear my own voice during the sing along. I don't want to hear your voice. I think about that at concerts. When I go to like a Springsteen concert or a Billy Joel concert, yes, 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 I know. Just play the music. Play it, play it, play it, play it. I sing the songs. And I often think about the people next to me don't really want to hear my voice, so I try to sing a little quietly. But in Wicked, it's hard not to outwardly sing. I happen to have watched the movie alone. I was curled up in the fetal position, not feeling well, going back and forth to the porcelain god, trying to figure out how I could get 160 minutes straight in. And I realized that it cured my tummy. It was the longest stretch I had of health during the entire break. How's that not for a good review? Please watch Wicked Part 1. Why is it Part 1? The end of Wicked is really only intermission of the Broadway musical, which, if you haven't seen, it's well worth it. You can find great prices when you're in New York and there's traveling Wicked. Go see live musical theater. It's so good. People die every day. It's part of life. I'm scared of dying. I'm scared of anything that's so permanent. I'm scared, total FOMO, like all the stuff that's going to happen after I die. Horrible. I don't like going to bed at night because I think I'm going to miss something. Going to bed for like a gazillion infinity years. The thing about death is that people say it's the only thing that's guaranteed. I think heartbreak is guaranteed. I think losing seasons are guaranteed. People say it's taxes only. Well, there's plenty of people who don't pay taxes, so I don't think that's guaranteed. The thing about sports and death is that we plan for it. As an example, we've got a book about 2 inches long about what happens if the team plane goes down and the entire team dies. We have a whole plan in place as to what you do. It's submitted to the league. The league has the plans for every team. The other thing the commissioner's office has is the succession plan for every team. You have to have a succession plan for the owner of your team in case of croak. Who is going to be in charge? Because when an owner dies, there's still a game the next day. You put a patch, moment of silence, dedicate a few areas in the ballpark, but the show goes on. A succession plan is given to baseball, and the succession plan outlines who will be the next control person of the team. The control person is the owner designated by Major League Baseball to have the vote during owners' meetings on behalf of your member team, no matter what your partners may say. So, funny enough, if John Henry's the control person of the Red Sox, but Tom Warner is his equal partner, if John Henry wants to vote for something that Tom Warner doesn't want, guess what? John Henry gets to vote for it. And guess what? That means that's the Red Sox vote. A succession plan has to have a new control person ready to rock immediately. You know how in Judaism, when you die, you have to do the funeral within 24 hours. You want to get it done so you can get right to the bagels and cream cheese. The succession plan's the same thing. Immediate. The San Diego Padres have a succession plan because their owner, Peter Seidler, died. We've talked about Peter Seidler. I told you stories of my relationship with him, what a fantastic man he was, how much he wanted to win so badly, but how irrational he acted as an owner, the payrolls he had, the losses he incurred, the desire to be the Padres, the tragic way in which he died so young at only 63 years old. The succession plan we all assumed was that his brother was going to be the control person. MLB is voting on that. And then yesterday, a horrific lawsuit got filed. The widow of Peter Seidler. Her name is Sheil. She's of Indian descent, and I say that because she's alleging racism of her former brothers-in-law. She is suing to take control of the Padres, saying that Peter Seidler, when my husband died, he told me that I would be in control of the team, not my brothers. And she apparently has a piece of paper to prove it. Here's the problem. The way it works with a succession plan in baseball, it's filed with the league. That is the succession plan. There is no debate about it. The reason why the family's having a fight and the lawsuits are happening and the statements are so horrific in what's being alleged, they did competing statements. His widow gave a statement talking about what a sad day this is, that she had to file this lawsuit, how absolutely and unbelievably upsetting it is for her to be treated the way she's being treated. The new control person, the brother of Peter Seidler, had to come out and release an entire statement as well. She wants you to believe that she did not take this decision lightly to sue, understands how serious this is, doesn't want to serve as a distraction. Side note, anytime you hear that owners don't want to be distractions to their players because of things that are going on, I only tell you that when a team loses, they blame it and say we were distracted. But in general, players don't care. There's not one San Diego Padre player who is sitting around saying, man, who's going to be the control person? I hope it's John and Bob and not Sheil. Oh, man, I love Sheil. I hope it's Sheil and maybe the daughter too. Not once. Not a thought. Notwithstanding some recent contracts, which gave me reason to pause, where somehow Ohtani requires Andrew Friedman and Mark Walter to be there with the Dodgers, and Juan Soto did something where he needs Steve Cohen and Alex Cohen to be around. That's new. That always makes me smile. I will only take your $700 million if you're here, because the money from somebody else won't be the same. And I signed up to be with you. Still haven't met a player, not one, spoken to many players, many agents over my years. Haven't met one. Oh, I signed with this team because of the owner. Nope, doesn't happen that way. So this thing that's going on with the Padres, here's the problem with it. Baseball is going to stay quiet because it's a legal proceeding. The Padres said that we're going to decline comment as well. They don't comment on legal matters. MLB not going to comment. They're mortified about this lawsuit. MLB knows exactly what's going on with this lawsuit and who's going to prevail because they know what the succession plan is. The sad part is when families fight, and we see it so often. We've seen teams change hands because the children of a dead owner can't get along. They can't figure out who's going to run what. So many parents do not leave clear directions upon their death of what's supposed to happen. So many times there's the infighting, and it's always about money and control and power and ego. So selfish of people to die without making it clear what is supposed to happen. People who die without a will, people who die without a clear plan with everything in their life, where they want to be buried, how they want to be buried. You owe it to your family, to your children, to your friends to not make them guess and then worry and have the guilt that they guessed wrong. Think about what happened. Do you remember the fight that we covered last year when the Broncos had to be sold to the Walmart people because Pat Boland's kids couldn't stop fighting? Do you remember when the Bus family was fighting amongst themselves, suing each other left, right, and center? We see it time and time again. The Padres are now added to a long list of families who can't seem to figure out how to follow through on the wishes of the deceased and instead decide what would be better than a lawsuit. A good old-fashioned drag them out, who's got the power lawsuit. And just for good measure, I'm going to play the card of you don't like me because I'm the wife. She actually talked in this complaint about some very horrific texts and emails that were sent that were incredibly racist, trying to sully these brothers of Peter Seidler. But then both sides say, hey, this is all about the Padres. This is all about continuing our quest to have this great organization, which, by the way, is running out of money and was run so irresponsibly that we're totally screwed that we have to lower our payroll. But I digress. This is all about you, Padres fans. The reason we're fighting is to make sure that we can continue to have the team that you can be proud of. Completely ridiculous. Matt Silverman had a busy Christmas. The president of the Rays. The Rays did an about face, and I just want to point that out to you because it was a pretty funny one. Do you remember when the hurricane came and then the roof of the Trop disappeared? And now they're playing at Steinbrenner Field starting like in 2 months at a spring training facility, and how they're trying to get the new stadium built for 28, but the Rays said we can't build it for 28 because you delayed floating the bonds, even though the county and the city did float the bonds when they were supposed to. But now the stadium's delayed by a year, and the Rays said, well, thanks for that, but we have a funding gap. We have no idea who's going to fill that gap. We're not doing anything. We've stopped all work. Remember all that craziness that's going on in Tampa? Remember I told you I think Tampa, the Rays are done. Why would they fix the Trop? It's like $65 million at least. Use that money differently. Use it to help build the new stadium. Well, guess what? Matt Silverman, in a letter on December 30th to the St. Petersburg city administrator, he said about face. He said that we now support and expect St. Petersburg to rebuild Tropicana Field according to the current use agreement. The team had been open to considering a settlement that would buy the city out of its obligation to repair the ballpark, but not anymore. Silverman wrote in a letter that Rob Manfred has advised the Rays that the city indicated it is at least possible that the Trop could be ready for opening day 2026. Did you hear what I just read to you? The president of the local team, in a letter, said that it's baseball who's communicating with the president of the Rays, not the local politicians. The commissioner advised Matt Silverman that St. Petersburg indicated it's possible the Trop could be ready for 26. The sickness of the relationship between the public officials and owner and president of the Rays is to a point where they are now ineffective partners. And there's no way to get a ballpark built when you are in partner with someone who you hate from the beginning. It's like going on a honeymoon with someone you didn't want to marry to begin with and saying to yourself, hey, it's at least going to be a nice location. Yeah, That doesn't really help if you have to share a room. When you need to do something as complicated as building a ballpark, you need to be lockstep with the public. You need to have everything written down, buttoned up. You need to have the ability to communicate, because otherwise you will not be able to get that building built. Forget on budget, forget on time. It's going to be a nightmare. But now we hear in a letter that the commissioner is the go-between. The commissioner doesn't want to be the go-between between the Rays and the politicians in Tampa or St. Petersburg. That is the single last thing. Well, that's the second to last thing he wants to be doing. Do you know why the Trop needs to be fixed for 26? Because the Yankees were nice enough to give Steinbrenner Field over for 25. They don't want it to become like Sacramento's AAA stadium. They're not looking for Tampa to be there for 3 years while a ballpark's being built. And by the way, it's not 3 years, because Tampa said itself, we're not going to have the ballpark done till 29. You think that Steinbrenner and the Yankees want the Rays there for 4 years? It's out of the question. They granted the gift for this year and this year only. It's not a permanent solution. There was no way that deal was made between baseball and the Yankees and the Rays that it would be a multi-year possible situation for the Rays. 1 year because of extenuating natural disaster circumstances, which enabled Hal Steinbrenner to publicly say, we want to be helpful. We want to be a good partner. But believe you me, Hal Steinbrenner is not saying, take your time. Don't worry about it. Make yourself comfortable. Happy to keep up Rays signage. Happy to inconvenience our minor league teams. No worries at all. That's not how it went. So baseball had to go meet with, which Rob Manfred did during the winter meetings, had to go meet with the council, not just to talk about making sure they float the bonds, which they were supposed to do and then did, but to talk about making sure the Trop could host games again. Because Tampa needs a place to play. And they're not going to do a temporary relocation to Sacramento, to Nashville, to Montreal, to Raleigh, to Miami. They're not going to split a ballpark, split a stadium. They need to have a place to play. If the ballpark was being built, is there a scenario where they could cut a deal with the Yankees because it was a guarantee that it was only 2 extra years because the building was going to open in 28? Maybe, not definite, but maybe. But now the fight is, what do we do? What money is used to fix the Trop when that money, the Rays want to be used to fill the gap with the increased construction costs given the year delay from 28 to 29? Now you're putting good money after bad. You're throwing good money into the Trop to get it ready to play because you can't fight with the Yankees anymore, and MLB doesn't want to have that fight happen. And so now that money goes into the Trop, so therefore that money can't go into the new ballpark, which means the gap that exists still exists, which is why Matt Silverman writes the letter and says, hey, we expect you to do what you're supposed to do, but by the way, we still don't have a deal. We still don't know what we're doing about the new ballpark. Dear Rob, are you going to let us explore relocation? How about a 2-city solution with Montreal? That worked so well. The mess that is Tampa, it's not going anywhere quickly. The best outcome is that the gap is filled because they speed up construction and they open in 28. If, in fact, the ballpark cannot be opened until 29, there's no choice but to fix the Trop, and there's no choice but to get the Rays back playing in the Trop for the 26, 27, and 28 seasons. Then the hope is that you can redesign or whatever you have to do to change the scope of the new ballpark in order to lower the construction costs, in order to do the opposite of what Oakland's doing, which is increasing its construction costs in Vegas. The hope is that you can lower the costs in Tampa and get the building built, even if it is a year late, at the same price so that there's no finance gap. Then Rob Manfred can do what he really wants to do, which is get expansion going and get all local media rights pulled together and sell them nationally so some teams can start being sold at higher multiples than they're currently being sold. So everything you see is all related. And so when Rob has to interject himself into situations like this, he's doing it for the sole purpose of moving the ball forward on an open issue in order to try to move on to the next open issue, in order to try to get back to doing what he needs to be doing, which is figuring out labor, figuring out franchise value, and recognizing that it's just business. See you at the Trop. This is nothing personal.